We're back with John and Jane. You probably know what's up by now. If you don't, just check out the earlier videos in this series.
There! Good, isn't it?
Jane, I got the new case. I got the heavy duty one, the heaviest duty one on the market. You could roll a truck over this baby.
I've always wanted to do this.
Hadn't put it on yet. Had not put it on yet. Oh no.
Oh no. Oh, you didn't. Oops.
I'm honestly a little sick of this trope that they've got going on. I don't know why they made her an exclusively dumb, reckless, and emotional character. While I think it's more just luck of the draw than blatant sexism, I still think it makes for poor script writing and less enjoyable content when she's always the one not understanding their undoubtedly brilliant creationist science, or making bad decisions, or getting upset over little things. Not to mention the unnecessary weight jokes they made in the last episode. Haha, woman fat, am I right?
Oh man, what normal person throws a phone?
Well, I never said I was normal.
Of course you're not. You're a young Earth creationist.
Okay, I'm so sorry. Puppy dog eyes.
Those are terrible puppy dog eyes, and you don't sound very sorry.
Well, I'm not like upset. I was expecting a call from the scholarship board today. The process takes months, and if they can't contact me, it's just going to be that much longer.
As I was first scripting this response, I immediately knew not only that they were going to use this phone for one of their dumb analogies, but could even predict exactly how it was going to tie in. See if you can guess for yourself.
We can do this. We can fix this. We just have to put the pieces back on the screen and then use this shipping tape to put it all back together.
Not gonna work.
Yes, it will. Yes, it will.
Why not just put his SIM card in your phone, lend it to him for the rest of the day so he can receive his call properly, and then swap them back when the day is done and take his phone to get fixed by a professional? You'll need me more for your life problems than for your science problems.
Who knew a phone could shatter so completely?
This is a nightmare.
No, it isn't. No, look, we can do this. We can do this. We almost got it done. See? Look. Here's Australia. Okay, look, that can go there. And then look, we already have Africa.
North America.
Yes, see? Now look, soon enough we'll have Pangea, and then your phone will be able to work.
Pangea? You mean the supercontinent?
Yeah, I was just reading about it for this week's homework. Let's see, it was page 162. Now, right here, they believe all the continents were together to form Pangea 225 million years ago.
We have very strong evidence for this, some outlined in what's considered the original book on the theory of continental drift, entitled The Origin of Continents and Oceans, originally written in German as Die Entstehung der Kontinente und Ozeane by Alfred Wegener.
But not everyone agrees, right?
True, not everyone agrees, but all legitimate scientists who aren't clouded by bias do believe this. There are a few select scientists who are quite talented in the realm of geophysics who simply refuse to accept reality due to their religious bias and have gone too far into the realm of denial to be pulled back. Despite all evidence in their face, their emotional attachment to not just the Bible, but a literal interpretation of it makes it impossible for these intelligent and otherwise trusted/trustable scientists to be considered reliable sources on the topic of continental drift.
True. Thousands of scientists believe in fast continental sprint rather than slow continental drift.
Continental sprint isn't even a real term, and I've no idea where they get these thousands of scientists from. They can only cite one, and he is very controversial in the field due to his significant religious bias.
One famous scientist by the name of Dr. John Baumgartner created a computer model for plate tectonics that thousands of geophysicists use to investigate Earth processes. His model has given us an understanding of how the continents split apart thousands, not millions of years ago.
Oh yeah, isn't he the creator of Terra?
This is simply ridiculous. There's no doubt that Terra is a valuable and accurate computer program for modeling mantle movements under the Earth's crust. However, Dr. John Baumgartner's conclusion that it can be used to demonstrate the validity of a young Earth creationist model is met with heavy opposition by others in the field. An enlightening article will be sourced below by the National Center for Science Education about Baumgartner's conclusion and his colleagues' opinions, but I'll summarize it here. Dr. John Baumgartner developed Terra while working at Los Alamos National Laboratory in 1997, and there are good scientific reasons for modeling such a program outside of his religious aims. According to Dr. Jerry M. Boak, another PhD geologist who worked at LANL, completely disagrees with Baumgartner in developing Terra for the reasons he did, saying, "Creationist modeling was distinctly not part of the work scope. Scientific publications of research using the Terra program have nothing to do with flood geology." Another quick note on Baumgartner's models is that while yes, they did provide a model by which rapid continental sprints could operate, it required assumptions that can't be verified. Keep in mind that this is a modeling program. It can't prove anything. You just plug in your assumptions and see what you get out. In the original article about this program, written in 1997 in the magazine US News and World Report, specifically a piece entitled The Geophysics of God, and as always, linked down below, even the author says, and I quote, "This is not impossible. It just contradicts almost every piece of existing evidence." This is because it requires the complete disregard of all forms of absolute dating, including radiometric dating, which we tackled last episode, thermoluminescent dating, dendrochronology, and amino acid dating. The Wikipedia article for absolute dating will also be linked down below. Baumgartner defends his position on radiometric dating by citing few known sources of inconsistent dates, specifically the Cardenas Rock in the Grand Canyon, which has provided inconsistent radiometric dates when dated via different isotopes. However, the rock has obviously been altered by heat, which makes it an unreliable clock for radiometric dating. G. Brent Dalrymple, geologist and author of The Age of the Earth, makes a nice analogy when asked for a statement on the topic. If Baumgartner finds a wristwatch that doesn't work, would he conclude that all watches and clocks are unreliable? Furthermore, two scientists quoted in the original article, Hager and Schubert, were also misrepresented in the placement of their quotes. It mentions their congratulations of Terra as a reliable tool for mantle modeling alongside discussion of Baumgartner's young Earth creationist beliefs, implying that they support his views. In writing to NCSE, Hager clarified that his comments were only about the computer code itself and not a support of Baumgartner's religious opinions, and Schubert writing specifically, "I did not agree with what Hager said. I simply stated that John Baumgartner had written a state-of-the-art numerical code to study mantle convection. In no way can John's numerical code say anything about the possible validity of a literal biblical view of creation."
Yep. In 1997, the US News and World Report reported Terra was created by a Los Alamos lab scientist, the world's preeminent expert in the design of computer models for geophysical convection, the process by which the Earth creates volcanoes, earthquakes, and the movement of the continental plates.
Didn't he show that they can also move very quickly?
In a model simulated in Terra that is disputed among geologists, yes, but even so, just because they could move quickly doesn't mean they did, and there's certainly no scientific evidence to support that idea.
Right, but because the theory of evolution takes a long period of time to supposedly happen, many only accept uniformitarian ideas.
Because uniformitarianism explains all the evidence in the best way possible, but I think the implication here is that scientists are simply too hard-clung to evolution to allow their minds to be changed. This simply isn't the case. Professional scientists are trained their entire lives to change worldviews based on newly presented evidence.
Uniform a who?
Oh, it defines it right here. Geologists make inferences based on the principle of uniformitarianism. This principle states that the same processes that operate today operated in the past.
So they can determine the rate at which a river is currently cutting through a canyon and then use that to determine how old it is?
Kind of. There's a lot more that goes into uniformitarianism and how it's used to date certain events and locations. For example, they would check to see if any catastrophic event had occurred that might alter the outcome, make sure the river is cutting through the same kind of rock now as it was back then, etc. All else held equal though, yes.
Correct, but what this principle refuses to take into account is the major catastrophic events of the past.
No, it doesn't. This is what you think it refuses to take into account because you're scientifically illiterate. Even Darwin, way back when, believed in a form of uniformitarianism that accounts for catastrophic events. The assumption should be that everything forms slowly and steadily until evidence shows a catastrophic event. Catastrophes are exceptions, not the rule, and should be treated as such.
Even many evolutionary geologists are starting to recognize the importance of regional catastrophes in understanding the geologic features on Earth.
They've always understood that. You just don't know what you're talking about.
Ooh. I think this might be the scholarship board. Quick, hand me South America.
Here. All right, here we go. Ready? Done. Go.
Please work, please work. Hello?
Yes, I was calling to let you know your hearing aids are in.
What?
I said your hearing aids are in.
Oh, you've got the wrong number.
So I'm guessing that wasn't the scholarship board?
Nope. I probably missed their call. Now I'm not going to hear back from them for weeks or months.
Well, at least your phone works. Okay.
So, our textbooks say that rock layers take a long time to form.
That entirely depends on the type of rock. Sedimentary rocks can take thousands of years, although this is dependent on things like deposition rate through processes of either cementation or lithification. Igneous rocks, especially ones that cool on the surface from lava, can form a lot quicker. Metamorphic rocks can take anywhere from a few thousand to a few 100,000 years to form.
Have you heard about Mount St. Helens?
Yeah.
Okay, well, during the 1980s eruptions at Mount St. Helens, 200 layers of rock were deposited in 3 hours. Entire river systems were carved in a matter of months, right through 700 feet of hard rock.
There are a few possibilities here. The first is that those rocks were deposited as said, but not actually formed there, and instead were formed under the earth and pushed out during the eruption, in which case it's completely irrelevant to the discussion at hand. Another is that it was igneous rock that rapidly cooled and formed those systems. I'm not sure about this one though. Unfortunately, they don't cite a specific source for this, which makes my job a lot harder. Given that they don't cite a source, I think we can just ignore their claim and move on.
Examples like this cause geologists to rethink some of their previous ideas and give biblical creationists great models for the flood of Noah's day.
Sure, if you completely disregard all forms of absolute dating and all other geological evidence, like the fossil record and geologic column, which shatters the idea of a global flood.
So imagine what a worldwide flood would do.
Oh, I can. One thing you might expect is that as creatures die in the geologic column, animals will try and swim up to get to the surface. As such, you would expect to see animal fossils dispersed semi-randomly throughout the geologic column. However, this isn't what we observe. Instead, we see fossils fall incredibly neatly into geologic layers based on time period, completely consistent with an old Earth. Just another nail in the coffin for young Earth creationism.
Exactly. So, here it says, these rock layers in the Grand Canyon were laid down over millions of years and were then slowly washed away by the river, forming a channel.
5 to 6 million years, but yes, that's exactly what happened.
That's uniformitarian thinking again, isn't it?
No, it's scientific thinking. If you don't understand that, don't make it my problem.
Yup, if these rock layers took millions of years to form, then the bottom rock layers would be hard and brittle by the time the ones at the top would be deposited. But near Grand Canyon, all the layers are bent together.
There's a lot that you're not taking into account here. Like glass being blown into the shape of a wine glass, incredible heat, pressure, and time can make a previously brittle object moldable.
If they were bent together, well, they were hard. Snap! The rocks didn't shatter like they should have. They must have been bent together while they were soft and pliable. The whole stack.
That means they were all deposited at about the same time.
No, it does not. I assure you, if this was a real concern, scientists would have thought about this already. They have, and it isn't.
Not over millions of years. So what about the canyon itself?
Well, if the river slowly carved the canyon, then we should see all the material piled up in a river delta. But it's completely missing. In fact, about 1,000 cubic miles has been eroded to form the Grand Canyon. Where did it all go? If the canyon was slowly eroded by the Colorado River, an enormous delta should be found at the mouth of the river where it empties into the Gulf of California. But the delta only contains about 1% of the eroded material we would expect if the evolutionary explanation were true.
This is naive, to say the least. An incredibly large amount of the material ends up being eroded and washed away into the Gulf of California and consequently the Pacific Ocean.
Unless it was carved by a massive catastrophe, which carried all the material away.
Now you need to justify why a massive catastrophe can carry away material, but a slow carving process can't.
That's what I think. Check out what it says about fossils in our biology book. Even if an organism lives in an environment where fossils can form, the chances are slim that its dead body will be buried in sediment before it decays. So, animals have to be quickly buried in sediment so its cells can be preserved and then replaced by the surrounding minerals. Okay, so check out this fossilized clam.
You have fossilized clams in your purse.
Yeah, they hurt in my pocket. Anyway, so what happens to a clam when it dies?
No more homework?
No. They open up and their two shells separate. But this clam was fossilized before it had a chance to fall open or be pulled open by a scavenger. They've also found fossils of a fish coming out of another's mouth. How quickly did that get fossilized?
Not fast enough.
Or what about a marine reptile caught giving birth?
Awkward!
A swing and a miss. Let's go through these examples one by one. Clams are easy enough. I've linked a Reddit thread below of a guy getting dunked on in the subreddit for debating evolution, where he presents closed fossilized clams as evidence for quick fossilization. Long story short, all it shows are localized rapid deposition events, where the clam died and sediment was moved on top of it before it could open, and then fossilized after while shut. And that isn't even to mention that not all clams open when they die, so it's a moot point from the get-go. Next, they mention a fossil of a fish eating another fish, more specifically a Diplomystis attempting to eat a Knightia eocena. I don't see why anyone would think this would need rapid fossilization. Both creatures were dead when they got fossilized. How? Because the Diplomystis wasn't eating the Knightia eocena, it was choking on it. It had already killed the eocena and then died itself via aspiration, and then sediment was layered onto the two fish, fossilized, and the rest is history. I've linked an article down below by fossilera.com with both images and explanation of the event. The third and final one is a quote-unquote marine reptile caught giving birth. More specifically though, a member of the Cauhusaurus gayshanensis species. As always, links will be provided down below for information on the event. Again, I really don't understand why this would need to be laid down rapidly. The Cauhusaurus mother died while in labor about 250 million years ago and was fossilized for us to see today.
Yeah, and they found many dinosaur bones with red blood cells, soft tissue, proteins, and even DNA. How quickly would that have to be buried before it deteriorated?
And have it last for 70 million years? There's no way.
There are great explanations for how soft tissue has avoided deterioration inside dinosaur bodies. Their mention of 70 million years makes me know exactly what this event was because I've looked at it before. After finding soft tissue in a 68 million year old T-Rex fossil, Mary Schweitzer, a molecular paleontologist at North Carolina State University, published a study in the Proceedings of the Royal Society B Biological Sciences outlining how the answer to this seeming problem is iron. According to Schweitzer, iron in the blood is released from its tight bond with cells after death, forming iron nanoparticles and generating free radicals. Schweitzer says, the free radicals cause proteins and cell membranes to tie into knots. They basically act like formaldehyde. For those who aren't aware, formaldehyde is an exceptional tissue preservation chemical that works by linking or cross-linking amino acids in proteins, making them significantly more difficult to decay. You know how it is by now. Links in the description for a Live Science article on what happened.
But all of these could have been fossilized during the worldwide flood.
Right. Noah's flood would create many of the rock layers that stretch over entire continents and bury millions of creatures for us to find as fossils today.
Actually, no. Noah's flood couldn't account for the consistent rock layers we find. In a global catastrophic event, the rock layers would be more jumbled up and inconsistent as they were laid down quickly and in inconsistent conditions. However, in a uniformitarian model, where the rock layers are laid down layer by layer over millions of years, we would expect to see exactly what we see. Consistent rock layers with each layer having fossils correlated with its time period.
It doesn't take millions of years to form fossils. It can happen rapidly under the right conditions.
Not sure about that one, Chief.
I guess it all comes down to what it says in 2 Peter chapter 3, that scoffers will come in the last days, walking according to their own lusts, and saying, "Where is the promise of his coming? For since the fathers fell asleep, all things continue as they were from the beginning of creation. For this they will willfully forget that by the word of God the heavens were of old, and the earth standing out of water, and in the water, by which the world that then existed perished, being flooded with water."
I don't want to dunk on Christianity in general, only the con men that push literal biblical creationism. As such, I won't try and debunk the Bible here, but I will present you with an interesting anecdote that you might not know. It is widely believed that all Christians held a literal six-day creationism to be true until Darwin came along. In fact, even many early theologians didn't hold this view. Origen, a 3rd century AD philosopher from Egypt, opposed the notion that Genesis should be interpreted as a historical account of the earth's creation, and St. Augustine, early 5th century AD, widely known for his work entitled Confessions, also wrote a myriad of other works, including one entitled The Literal Meaning of Genesis, in which Augustine proposes that Genesis was written to suit the understanding of the people at the time in order to communicate the world's creation in a simpler, more allegorical fashion.
They deny the worldwide flood. Yes, this is John. Really? 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 All right, well, thank you very much. Yeah, I'll talk to you then. Guess who that was?
That was the scholarship board. Did that go well?
Yes!
Yes!
I got the scholarship. I thought I was gonna have months of paperwork. And I just got it, just like that.
Oh, congratulations, John.
Yeah, I guess things you think are gonna take a really long time can sometimes happen very rapidly.
I saw this coming from a mile away. Terrible analogy. Shut the fuck up.
Yep. Kind of makes you think, doesn't it?
Kind of. I did actually have to learn a lot about fossilization and geology for this episode, which made it much more interesting to research. So, I guess so. But it also makes it perfectly clear how you either already know the science and are being malicious, or don't know the science and aren't bothered to learn it, because I researched and scripted this entire video in under 24 hours. An absolute embarrassment on your part. Thanks for watching, guys. Make sure to like and sub if you've made it this far and haven't already. I'll see you next time with their Lesson 3A, entitled, Did Humans Evolve? I'm sure that'll be a fun one.